private developers as well as residents. So the big question, what are area plans and what do they do? How do they impact your community? So these plans are an 8 to 10 year community vision for physical land development. They come about through a rigorous public engagement process, a thorough understanding of existing conditions and best planning practices. Once completed, they will inform rezoning decisions at Planning Commission and City Council, as well as help local government to coordinate public investments and government spending with where private development is occurring. Okay. So to define the scope further, here's a quick list of what area plans do not do. So they do not regulate certain types and locations of development. They don't change the zoning of any particular property, although area plans may influence future land use and zoning decisions. They do not directly address social issues such as education, healthcare, or public safety, and they do not ensure the funding of recommended projects. Okay. I want to talk some about the key deliverables that you can expect out of this process. The first is an existing conditions analysis that includes the 4 components you see on the screen: demographics, built environment, transportation, and natural systems and open space. So this analysis, plus the feedback that we get from all of you, helps to form a more complete understanding of the key issues and characteristics of Area 11 East Brainerd. So demographic data illustrates who makes up a community in terms of age, income, household size, and jobs. Analysis of demographics and demographic shifts or trends over time are vital for area plans. The demographic makeup helps to inform housing needs and what types of developments are most applicable for the area. So the built environment describes all the places where we live, work, and play, the housing options, the commercial centers, job areas, schools, and how we design our public spaces. Transportation is all of the infrastructure and services that help people to reach their daily needs, which includes streets, sidewalks, bike paths, and transit. Transportation analysis looks at how well these function to serve Area 11 residents. So some pieces of data that the staff looks at are your street network and typology, how that influences traffic flow and congestion. We look at current as well as projected congestion levels. We also look at your walk sheds to key destinations and to transit. Natural systems and open spaces. These are features such as floodplains, creeks, streams, wetlands, and tree canopy. Open spaces may also include parks and greenways and blueways. Data in this arena looks at water quality, flooding issues, and stormwater infrastructure. Okay. So this existing conditions information, plus all of the public input, helps to inform the plan document. And on the right in the purple box, you'll see 5 key deliverables of that plan document. There's the vision statement, the guiding principles, the goals, general policies, and recommendations. So I'm going to go over what each of those are. The vision statement describes broadly what the community aspires to be in the future, and it provides direction as the community grows. Principles define a community's values. They represent priorities, traits, or qualities that are worthwhile. Principles and subsequent goals are typically divided in 2 categories. For instance, there can be a whole set of principles and goals specifically for natural resources, transportation, housing, commercial development, etc. So here on the left, I've provided an example from our Area 3 Historic River to Ridge Plan that specifically focuses on transportation. This was led by our principal planner, Pam Glazer. So the guiding principle here, as expressed was by the community, was a desire for better pedestrian safety. And so a goal, which is a specific target for how to meet a broader principle, was to design streets for all types of users. And then there were 2 policies that were specific courses of action to meet that target, to design safer streets for pedestrian safety. And so that included policies such as limiting the number of curb cuts so that there's less interface between a pedestrian on a sidewalk and turning maneuvers from traffic. Install well-marked pedestrian crossings, pedestrian signals, or other traffic calming measures. So hopefully you can see from this example, from this previous plan, how we go from an overarching vision to a few guiding principles for different categories in this physical development plan. And then we set specific targets or goals, and then how you achieve those targets through the policy. So again, this is an example from our Area 3 plan, and you can go look at that Area 3 plan in more detail if you're interested in what the final plan document might look like for your area. The link to that plan you can see on the bottom of the page as well as in your chat box. Okay, great. So another major deliverable is place types. Each color you see on this map represents a place type. This is a tool used to help promote good placemaking. Placemaking are the physical characteristics that shape unique places. So key characteristics of a place are: what is your street network like? What types of open spaces are there? What are the transportation choices? What are the uses, whether that be a mix of uses, commercial, housing, retail, business, or a single use? How intense are these uses? And general building size, scale, location, and parking. So these are just a few characteristics of place types. I do want to emphasize that RPA has a spectrum of 21 place types that can be assigned to various locations in Area 11, depending on the community's desires for how these locations should grow or be maintained. I've provided an example on this slide of 2 residential place types. One you should be pretty familiar with in Area 11 is the suburban residential. This is characterized typically by a single house on a larger lot, probably a quarter of an acre or more. The street network tends to be dead end or have a lot of cul-de-sacs and a major collector that connects you to the major arterial. Access to the lot is from the front. Open spaces are private yards and community lots. And typically you do need to use a car here to reach destinations. On the bottom is another residential place type, mixed residential, where there can be a variety of housing types on a lot, such as the quadplex that you see here on the right, to a mid-rise apartment. The street network is typically pretty connected, and this place type tends to be located closer to destinations. And so there are a variety of transportation choices, and open spaces tend to be shared. So those are just 2 examples out of the 21 that we have that focus specifically on residential. And I want to put a pin in place types right now, because as we go through this process, we'll get into this more deeply, but this is just to give you a taste of what's available. So I want to switch gears and go over our general time frame. There are 5 phases in this process that can take about a year. Phase 1 is the community profile. And here we build a deeper understanding of your community through feedback from you, as well as we interviewed our technical advisors. So these are maybe administrators or staff in particular departments that we discuss key issues with, such as stormwater, transportation, our park system. The planning team also starts our detailed existing conditions analysis and research at this phase. And then in phase 2 is the community vision. This is where we are now. And this is really about getting feedback from all of you through our public kickoff meeting and through the kickoff survey. And we also launch our project website at this point. Phase 3, community choices. This is what I believe to be the most critical public engagement period, because this phase is where we start to make some decisions about physical development patterns in your area. We also look at challenges and trade-offs for various planning solutions, whether it be a best planning practice to address, say, flooding or traffic congestion or economic growth. So this is very important point in which to be engaged. So in phase 4 is where we start to draft the plan. And this is where we take all your input and feedback, and we start writing that vision statement, the guiding principles, goals, and policies and recommendations. And then in phase 5, we go through an adoption process where the draft plan goes to Planning Commission and then City Council. These are formal public hearings, and the community can participate in those as well. You will see throughout these phases little asterisks, and those are points of public engagement in which to stay involved and provide us with your feedback. So if you have subscribed to our email list, we will be sending out periodic updates of when and how to stay involved and provide us with your feedback. So please go to our website. You can subscribe there. You can also take our kickoff survey. This is very important at this stage to get feedback from you about what's working well in your community or what's not working, what you value and what to protect in your community, and what you might like to see change. So you can go to our website and take that survey. We will be hosting future virtual meetings. So stay tuned. We're going to be repeating this same webinar on Monday, February 22nd from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. to give people an evening option. If you need to contact us about this process, you can shoot us an email at areaplan@chattanooga.gov. And finally, we are live recording this presentation on YouTube. So if you want to watch this presentation again, you can, or send this link to a neighbor. So that wraps up our presentation. I would like to go ahead and open it up to questions from all of you. If you click on your Q&A tab at the bottom there, you can go ahead and type in questions.
Hey, thank you, Sarah. That was great.
Thanks.
So please do go ahead and type in some questions. While people are doing that, I'll just mention a couple questions we've already received. Eric Matravers has been typing some questions back to those of you that ask these, but other people may have the same question. A couple questions dealt with road projects that are going on in the area. You know, will we be covering that in this area plan? Typically, we don't get into the details of road projects. That's really the purview of the city's transportation department, CDOT. We do talk with them a lot and work with them during the area plan process. So I'm sure we'll be having a meeting in the future to talk about transportation issues and traffic, because we know that that is a concern for people in the area. So again, just stay tuned on our website, watch for emails from us, and we'll let you know when those come up. But if you do have specific questions or questions about a real specific road project, you might want to contact the Chattanooga Department of Transportation. You can also send us an email at areaplan@chattanooga.gov. And if we can't answer your specific question, we can forward it on to CDOT. Let's see, someone else asked about the interactive tool Sarah was showing earlier. I think they're referring to that interactive map. That's available,
Yes.
available at our website. So there's a lot of cool stuff on our website already, and we'll be adding even more throughout the process. You can sign up for our email list there. You can take the survey. You can type in any comment you have on a little comment board we have there. You have links to all of that. And Sarah's showing you the interactive map on our screen right now. I'll stop and Sarah, see if you want to talk a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So this is the interactive map on our website, and you can zoom into the Area 11 area, and you can, go anywhere here. Say you want to zoom in on Hamilton Place or any location. And then up here are tabs that you can click that will highlight, say, commercial properties, your housing, your parks, your transportation system, and also some information on flooding. And then there's a brief narrative and a few stats here on the left. So that just helps to, we have an entire existing conditions report that we'll be releasing soon that has a lot more detail. But this is just some light information right now while we get that up and running, just to get to know the area. But I do want to bring your attention to the top of if you scroll to the top of the Area 11 page, you can click here to take our survey below the pencil. And then there's also a comment board, and people have been using this comment board, which is really exciting to see. So they're just 2 questions. What is something you like about your community? Something that you value or want to protect? And then what is something that could be improved in your community? So you just click a plus button to add a little sticky note for us. And then you can also, it looks like you can vote on these and just say, yes, I agree with this, what's already been said. Thumbs up, this is important. So these are some tools to provide your planners with some input about your community.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sarah. Let me go back to a couple questions we have coming in.
Yeah.
First of all, someone asked, will we be sending out the existing conditions report that Sarah mentioned? Yes, we will. We will be posting that on our website in the near future. We've got it pretty much finished. We just need to polish it up a little bit. So check back in a couple weeks and you should be able to find that. And it should have a lot of really interesting information. In fact, when we schedule meetings during that community choices phase of this area planning process, we will probably be focusing in on a lot of the issues that we've already heard about in the preliminary survey results so far, some of the topics that Sarah told you about. So that will, a lot of that information is included in there.
Yeah.
Someone else asked, evidently this person was involved in the White Oak Mountain area plan a couple of years ago and is asking what's the difference between this one and the White Oak Mountain area plan. They're 2 different parts of the county. The White Oak Mountain area plan included the Summit community, Ottawa, Collegedale, and kind of the further east parts of East Brainerd, basically around, Ottawa, Ringgold Road in that area. So they're 2 totally different areas. This one is everything a little bit further west, closer into the Hamilton Place area.
Yeah, so I have up on my screen here, Karen, just to orient people, this is where the Area 12 White Oak Mountain Plan was located, and then Area 11 is just next door to the west of that plan.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Let's see. Someone is asking if there are plans to increase the availability of sidewalks in the area, if that's something we're considering. We've been looking at the survey results as they're already coming in, and we have seen that a lot. People seem to really value sidewalks and want more of them in the area. So that's something that we'll be talking about with the city transportation department. Of course, everything takes money. But it is important for everybody that participates in this to also take the survey and participate in future meetings and let us know what issues are important to you. Because as those issues rise to the top, that makes it a little more likely after this plan is finished that some of those types of projects might be funded and implemented by the city. So it's important that you stay involved and let us know about any issues that you think are critical. Let's see, someone said they'd like to have a library in the plan. Great comment. Those are the kinds of things we want to hear. So please, if you take the survey, there are a couple questions that allow you to just type in additional answers. You can also go to that comment board on our website and type in some things there. So let us know about those kind of things that you want to see. And someone also asked about stakeholders. This is a question that we get a lot. Sarah mentioned that we talk to stakeholders during the area planning process. We've already had a couple preliminary meetings with people like the city council representative for this area, Councilman Darren Ledford. We met with the East Brainerd Chamber of Commerce Council. Couple folks like that have given us some preliminary ideas about issues that they've heard people talking about, things that they think are important for the area. We will continue to meet with those folks and others throughout this process. Some of the people we almost always meet with are residents. We like to have a meeting just with residents. We usually start with the neighborhood association presidents, or perhaps someone else that's been designated by a neighborhood association to speak for them. That's important. We usually meet with commercial business owners. In an area like the East Brainerd area, that's going to be really critical because you have a lot of commercial businesses in East Brainerd, as you all know. Mm-hmm. We also usually meet with developers just to see what plans they may have on the table. So we have some idea of what kind of new growth might already be coming. We also meet with city departments like CDOT, the Chattanooga Department of Transportation. We will probably be meeting with the state Department of Transportation, TDOT, because some of the roads in the East Brainerd area are designated state routes, so TDOT gets involved then. We do have some transit service in Area 11 around the Hamilton Place area, so we'll probably be meeting with CARTA. So those are the kinds of stakeholders that we're talking about, and we may add some other groups and meetings as the process go on, and we hear from you about what you think the critical issues are. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Okay, it's a good question. Someone is asking if the city council and the various city departments have to follow this committee's or these suggestions, I guess, that come out of the plan. John, how about if I let you take that one?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I mean, they don't have to, but certainly they are cognizant of and value what is said in the plan. Just to give you an example, in Area 3, I think, as I recall, actually I was sitting in a meeting with some administrators, and there's already the implementation Area 3 recommendations for some streetscaping along one of the major corridors. So they really value this input because it gives an opportunity for them to hear from everybody in the community about what their priorities are. So I mean, again, it's a guide. It doesn't dictate what has to happen, but it certainly provides a pretty strong communication tool from the community stakeholders about what they like to see in their community. I thought it might be an interesting story to tell. An example of that is the Goodwin Road connection, which actually started as part of the Hamilton Place plan going back into the early 2000s. That was something that was actually came out of that planning process, and actually we're starting to see that come into fruition. So it does take time. Unfortunately, transportation projects don't move as quickly as we like because they're expensive and they just take a lot of time to do. Also, you'll hear this over and over again. Funding is limited, and so we have to make more informed choices, and that's why your feedback is so important. I know your council representative appreciates it and staff, so we know what's really important to you. So I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thanks, John. Yeah, a couple more questions about a bike lane project that the current mayor started. It was shown going through Area 11. They're asking if we know the status of that project. John, do you happen to know? I'm not aware of what the status is.
Could you repeat that again? I missed that.
The status of a bike lane project that would be going through Area 11 that Mayor Burke started?
I'm not aware of a specific bike lane project. We can certainly follow up and get back with folks on that. We can reach out to the CDOT to see if there's any. I'm not aware of one, but I will double check on that.
Okay. Yeah, please do. Again, if we will be keeping a list of all these questions today and we'll respond. Again, we'll put that frequently asked questions list on our website. So be sure, I know I keep saying this, but do please keep checking back on our website. That's going to be important. Also, again, if you have a real specific question, you can always email us at areaplan@chattanooga.gov. A couple other things while we're looking to see if some more questions come in. You might be wondering when the survey results will be available. We are going to close out this survey at the end of the day on February 26th. So you still got a good week to take the survey if you haven't already. Once we close out the survey, we will then tabulate the results, clean them up so they look presentable, and post those on our website. So you probably need to give us a little time after the 26th to get that done. Maybe check back that first week in March and see if it's up. And anytime we post something new like that, the survey results or the existing conditions report, we will always send an email message out to all of you to let you know that we've just posted something new. So you, at that point, you'll know to go check our website. Okay, someone had a question about flooding. Flooding a property is an issue in that area. Are you aware of this? We have heard that from numerous people, and I am quite sure that that will be an issue that we will be looking at during this process. In fact, Sarah is just, I see, bringing up a map of the floodplain. You want to talk about that, Sarah?
Sure. So in our initial stakeholder meetings with our technical advisors in stormwater, as well as through some of our mapping analysis, we did find that flooding was a concern. You have a vast amount of 100-year floodplain in Area 11. So about 17% of your total land area per acreage is covered by the 100-year floodplain. And so you can see this mostly, you're probably aware, around Davidson Road, South Chickamauga Creek, and along Ryle Springs and Mackey Branch. But if there are other locations outside this area, the floodplain, these are the most risk prone to flooding because they're in that 100-year floodplain area. But these maps are being updated, the FEMA floodplain maps. And so there may be other areas where flooding occurs. So we would want to know that information from you if there are concerns about flooding. We did one analysis map where we overlaid 311 calls from residents about flooding in the location and flooding concerns, and looked at some patterns of where those occurred. So some of those, of course, were in the 100-year floodplain, and some were just outside of it. So we're not sure what that means or not yet, but it could be that it's expanding. And we'll have more information on that once the new FEMA maps are released. But also, the red here is your impervious surface. an impervious surface can generate a lot of water runoff because it doesn't soak, the stormwater doesn't soak into the ground, and so that runoff can also lead to flooding problems if there's nowhere for the water to go, or if there's not enough infrastructure available. So there may be flooding concerns in the impervious surface locations as well. But that's just what our initial analysis is revealing. And, you know, we need to match that up with the feedback from the community to get a sense of what is actually happening in this area.
Great, thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
We just had a question from someone asking if developers can build in the floodplain areas. Technically, by law, yes, you can build in the floodplain. There are requirements, building code requirements that say you have to raise the elevation, basically the floor of your house or building a certain height above the actual floodplain elevation. But again, by law, yes, someone can build in the floodplain right now.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else is asking if there has been any consideration given to burying utilities, especially for new developments. I haven't heard that question before for this area. That's an interesting one. We don't usually get into those details, but we can certainly talk to maybe the EPB and our folks at the city and see if there are any plans. Some new developments certainly do. I don't know that that's a requirement. Sarah or John, are you aware of any requirements to do that at this point?
I think we could schedule a meeting with EPB. I don't think that was on our initial stakeholder list. Typically, it's very expensive to bury power lines, but I will make a note to contact them and see.
Okay. Another question, is the commission involved in any of the revitalization of the areas that were hit by the April tornado? Are trees being replanted? But when you say this commission, I'm not sure who exactly you're referring to. Again, that's something that the various city departments are and will continue to be working on. We know that you guys have been through a lot in the past year with the tornado and COVID and everything else. And I know, hearing from people, that trees are something that this community really values, and unfortunately you did lose a lot. I think the city does have an urban forester and maybe a tree planting program that this area could participate in. We will check on that and get back to you on any specifics of how you could be involved in that.
I want to mention that water quality. So we have the urban forestry department. We also have water quality that is starting a voucher program for tree planting. And so you can apply to receive some trees, free trees, and plant them on private property. And so when we get to the draft plan and we get to specific policy recommendations, we will kind of mention some of those strategies for your area.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sarah. A lot of times we get questions from people wanting to know, well, what happens after this? What's next after this step? Again, once the survey closes out and we tabulate those results and post them, that's when we're going to start to drill down into more specific issues that you have told us are important. So again, it is really important to take that survey and send us your comments. We will, at that point, start scheduling some additional meetings that will focus on some of those issues. We'll probably be sending you some follow-up surveys that will focus on some of those specific issues. Based on what we're seeing already in some of the preliminary survey results, those meetings will probably be organized around some of the topics Sarah mentioned earlier. Transportation and traffic, we'll certainly have some kind of discussion about that. New development, the growth in the area. We'll probably have something that focuses on that. We've heard from a lot of people saying they'd like to see more greenways in the area. So we'll probably have a meeting that will focus on the natural resources and parks and greenways as well. In fact, someone sent us a follow-up comment about the flooding, saying if developers can build in the floodplain, doesn't it then change basically the floodplain and cause flooding issues elsewhere? That is an issue that we need to talk about. I don't have a great answer for you right now, but certainly when we have meetings about that issue, we'll want to involve folks from the city's stormwater department, maybe some of the other city departments and developers, because I know that is a concern for a lot of people, because you obviously do have some flooding issues in the East Brainerd area. John, anything you want to add to that?
I think you're right. We know it's a concern in the community, and I think we know that's probably a topic we're going to dig deeper into. And I think, as Karen mentioned, it is pretty complicated, and so we want to be sure to have the right expertise in the room when we talk about how we think about what we're doing now and what we do going forward.
Great. Another question asking if we have a map that shows all the commercial areas, schools, apartments, condos, other high density areas. We do have a land use map. In fact, Sarah, maybe if you can click on, well, you've got the
Commercial.
flooding up now. Click on the commercial tab, maybe.
Here's commercial, and then here is housing. And this has your single family residential areas in the lighter yellow, and then multifamily in the gold. So 48% of your land use now is covered by single family residential.
Yeah, so the answer is yes, we do have those maps, and this interactive map that you can access from our website is a good way for you to be able to look at some of those things.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, someone else has sent a comment about the removal of all the damaged and dead trees. I know that as a constant reminder of what you guys have been through. Again, we will talk to the city departments and find out what all they're doing and get back to you on that. And someone is asking, once we go back to in-person meetings, can we continue to have Zoom meetings as well? Thank you for that comment. I'm glad you find this convenient. We'll try to do both. It's a lot of work. We actually prefer the online meetings, the in-person meetings, just because we get to see you guys in person. But we'll probably continue at least for a while to have some Zoom online meetings, because I think a lot of people just can't make it out to a meeting, may not be comfortable coming out to an in-person meeting, from months to come because of COVID. So we'll probably, once we are able to have public meetings in person again, continue to have a mix of the two. Another question, does RPA plan take into account how existing property owners are or will be protected in the plan? That is something that this plan will talk about. We often hear from folks who are concerned about commercial encroachment into their single family neighborhood or those sorts of issues. And some of the meetings will focus on that. And the previous area plan, the historic River to Ridge area plan, that was back, of course, when we were meeting in person. So we actually had maps on the tables, and we actually had residents from those neighborhoods draw a circle around the neighborhoods that they really wanted to see protected. And then we started looking at other areas outside of those circles where we could maybe, encourage other types of higher density commercial. So we'll probably be doing some of that sort of thing here. We just have to figure out how to do all of that in online meetings. Okay, Sarah, anything else you want to go over on the map while I check these last couple questions?
Yeah, I did want to mention that there are two. I'm going back to the flooding since it seems to be a major concern, and I do want to reiterate, because we're in the very beginning stages of this process where we've done a little bit of analysis. We've talked to some technical advisors. We're getting some feedback from all of you. And so we are building that community profile. We're getting to understand the area, but the feedback from you in this kickoff survey is really important in terms of what are we going to dive deeper into in future webinars, surveys, public meetings, special topics. So for example, we could do an entire webinar or meeting that just focuses on the transportation issues in your area, and bring in a group of panelists and just talk and discuss and get feedback from you about transportation or flooding. So, but we want that to be guided by you as residents and business owners, so that we know the direction of what the concerns and issues are, and where the focus is, what kind of focus topics we need to hone in on. So it does sound like flooding was a major concern, and I just wanted to point out about the question about development in the floodplain. So yes, you can develop in the floodplain, and right now, I believe it's 68% of the zoning in that 100-year floodplain is R1 residential, which is a density of about up to 5 dwelling units per acre. So that's what you have right now. So all of that can be developed out as single family homes. Most of it, about 68%. There are some other zones as well. So there are requirements. There are pretty stringent requirements right now to develop in the floodplain to help mitigate some of that risk of flooding. You do have to fill 100-year, you have to fill 1 foot above that 100-year flood elevation. So that fill can cause some offsite impacts. That water needs to go somewhere. So yes, that's a concern. You cannot, however, in the dark blue, there are restrictions in developing in the floodway. So the floodway is different from your 100-year floodplain. You can develop in the 100-year floodplain. You cannot develop in the floodway. Which is typically reserved for the path of the movement of water. I don't know, John, did I get that right?
Yes, yeah, I think you did, and I think, like I think Chloe knows it's going to be a topic of interest, and that's where I think we probably want to bring in some engineers to talk a little bit, because it actually has to deal with stream hydrology, geometry. There's a lot of things that kind of drive that question of, and also I would say the other aspect that I know I learned as we talk more with some of our peers is actually how we retrofit. One of the things we learned just in our communications with partners is that actually all that red you see there around the commercial areas was developed before we had stormwater regs. And one of the things they share with us is an opportunity, if we look at doing some green infrastructure in those areas, it could actually do a substantial amount of good in terms of impacting the stormwater in this area. So I think this is a learning process, and I think we're learning as staff. You're going to be learning with us, and I think that's what makes this kind of work fun. Is that it is a fluid learning process. We're going to share what we've learned so far with you. You're going to share some things we don't know, and so we're excited about kicking this off.
Okay, thanks, John. Sarah, we probably have only time maybe to address one more question, so we can wrap up by about 1 o'clock. One person was asking about landscaping and property maintenance, both commercial and residential, if this plan will address that. Are there any tax incentives, financial incentives to help improve older properties? We can address that in the plan. Again, if that's an important issue to you, please let us know. We can make recommendations in the plan that says, to look into new landscaping regs or look at property maintenance, that sort of thing. Ultimately, those sorts of things really do come under the purview of the city departments and how they move forward with those. We can talk about incentives and things for redevelopment of older properties. Occasionally, the city does have programs available for that sort of thing. Of course, in these days, everyone's budgets are tight. But we can look at some of those issues. So please let us know if some of those things are important to you. So we need to wrap up. It is 1 o'clock. Again, I'm sorry we still had a few questions coming in that we didn't get to answer, but we will be saving all of these questions and typing up a list of questions and answers and posting those on our website in the next few days. So please check back and find that on our website. As Sarah mentioned earlier, we will have another one of these meetings. It's just going to be a repeat of this. You'll see the same presentation, although we might get some different questions coming in from the audience. But that meeting will be this coming Monday, February 22nd at 6:30 p.m. So you're welcome to join us again if you'd like to, or again, if you know someone that couldn't join us today, it conflicted with their work schedule or something else, please encourage them to join us Monday evening. And you will need to go to our website and register for that meeting if you want to attend the one Monday. And we will also send out an email reminder to everyone about it with a link to register there. So again, please do check our website often, chcrpa.org, as you see there on the screen. Send us emails at areaplan@chattanooga.gov. Please let us know what your concerns are. Again, this is your community, so we need to hear what's important to you and what your primary issues are. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate all of you taking out your time to be here. And we may see some of you again Monday night. And if not, hopefully we will see you in the weeks and months ahead. So thanks again.
Great, thanks, Karen. And a quick plug, don't forget to take the kickoff survey. The results from this survey will help to hone in and shape the future of this process for your community. So thanks so much for participating.
All right. And with that, we will end this meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.